Welcome to the basics of ILL deflection. In this video, you will have an overview of how lending libraries can set up deflections by changing the supplier status, setting up category-level deflection in OCLC Policies Directory, and setting up item-level deflections in local holdings records, or LHRs. Deflection is a feature that is such a time saver because as a lending library, you will often get requests for items that your library does not lend over ILL, usually because your policies or license agreements dictate that certain items cannot be loaned through interlibrary loan. Deflection allows the system to say no to these requests on your behalf. It will skip your library in the lender string and move the request on to the next lender. The types of deflection are supplier status, category level, and item level. We can consider supplier status as a type of deflection because once you set in the OCLC Policies Directory that your library is not a supplier for ILL, does not lend items through ILL, this action will automatically deflect all requests for your library. Let's take a look at all the three types of deflection. Supplier status is set in OCLC Policies Directory. The best way to access your OCLC Policies Directory page is from the respective link on your OCLC Interlibrary Loan Service homepage. From there, go to the Profile tab and click the Edit link next to the OCLC Supplier field to change your supplier status. OCLC Supplier equals Yes means that your library will loan materials through ILL. OCLC Supplier equals No means that your library will not loan materials through ILL. Select the No option if your library is not a supplier in the system, then save it. Then borrowing libraries will be unable to place requests to your library. That's why we consider the supplier status a type of deflection. If your library is a supplier, but your library will be temporarily closed, you can set up temporary supplier status for your library for those closure dates. You can change your temporary supplier status on the Schedule tab under the Closures option. When you click the Add button located on the right, a form like this will open. Enter the name for your closure and select the type of closure. Enter the start date and the end date. When you click the field, the calendar opens for you to select the date. Then set your supplier status to No for that period. Add any notes you find useful, then save your form. The system will temporarily pause ILL requests from arriving at your library during those dates. The closure information will be visible under your Schedule tab. You can edit or delete this information at any time using the respective links located on the right. The other type of deflection is category level, which is for items of a particular type, such as your electronic collections, DVDs, and other formats. Category level deflection is managed through WorldShare License Manager or Collection Manager and OCLC Policies Directory. Find the links to the deflection videos for electronic resources and License Manager on this video description. So let's take a look at how category-level deflection is set up using OCLC Policies Directory. You can create deflection policies based on format, group, cost, and/or age of items categories. You can combine the options, and you can create several deflection policies as needed. After logging into your account on your OCLC Interlibrary Loan Service, click the link to the OCLC Policies Directory on the homepage. When creating category-level deflection policies, keep in mind that when you select to include, the system will deflect, and your library will not receive ILL requests for those rules. When you select exclude, the system will not deflect. Your library will receive ILL requests for those areas that were excluded. Category-level deflection in OCLC Policies Directory is set up on the Policies tab under Deflections. You can edit or delete policies already created, or you can click the Add button to create a new deflection policy. After you click the Add button, A form like this opens for you to enter your deflection name and deflection options. On the Service section, you can select if your request type is for copy, loan, or both. You can also define if your deflection type is Enable real-time except when last in the lender string, or you can disable the deflection. On the Fees section, you can deflect by the maximum cost the borrower accepts. For example, my library will deflect anything where the maximum cost is under $10. Scroll down to the Borrower section. You can include or exclude OCLC library groups from your deflection policies. An OCLC group is one OCLC has created on behalf of libraries in that group. You can also create your own custom holdings groups in OCLC Service Configuration and include or exclude any of those groups from your deflection policy. Scroll down on the form to the Items sections where you can include or exclude formats, and select the formats to include or exclude on your deflection policy. You can include or exclude e-license terms and select the e-license terms to be part of this deflection policy. E-license terms are configured on Collection Manager in WorldShare Metadata or in WorldShare License Manager service if your library subscribes to this service. Include means that those e-license terms marked as no will be automatically deflected, while exclude means they will not be automatically deflected. You can also deflect by material age by selecting if the materials will be less or more than certain age. Add any notes you find useful and then save your deflection form. Here is an example of a deflection policy where my library does not loan audiovisual materials over ILL. This is what your library and other libraries see on your policies page after you create any policy. When creating category-level deflection, keep in mind what you want to include and/or exclude from your policy. Anything with the green check mark is included in the policy, while anything with the red X mark is excluded from the policy. Let's see how this deflection form was completed. I entered the name of my policy to be AV, or Audiovisual Deflection Policy. I selected the request type to be Loan, and the deflection type to be Enable Real-Time Deflection. I left the Fees field in blank because I am deflecting by format and not costs. Scrolling down on the form, I also left the Borrowers section as None for both OCLC Group and Custom Holdings Group because the deflection is for all libraries. Scrolling down on the form in the Items section under Formats, I marked Include and marked the formats Visual Material DVD, and Visual Material VHS. Scrolling down to the end of the form, I added the note, "We do not loan AV items over ILL." Then I click Save to save my policy. The other type of deflection is item level, which is for a specific item, and it is managed through Local Holdings Records or LHRs in the OCLC Cataloging Service Record Manager. It requires full-level cataloging authorization. Note that there's no exceptions for item-level deflection. Let's take a look at how item-level deflection is set up. Item-level deflection is done through Local Holding Records or LHRs. This is when you want to deflect specific materials such as serial titles, print and/or electronic, or non-circulating reference books, for example. You can either edit or create LHRs by using Record Manager service in WorldShare Metadata, if your library has an OCLC cataloging subscription. To define item-level deflection using LHRs, make sure that the title has an OCLC number, then ensure that the encoding level at the leader field is set to 2 or higher. Then expand the 008 field by clicking the plus sign to change the lending policy and reproduction policy as desired where the letter A means your library will lend and/or reproduce the item, and B means your library will not lend and/or reproduce the item. Visit our support portal if you want to learn how to create LHRs. After setting up your deflection policies as a lender, you can see on your resource sharing lender reasons for no report that a request was auto-deflected on your behalf. You can use this report to define future deflection policies based on the requests you have manually answered no. Borrowing libraries can see, under the Request History tab, that the request was auto-deflected on behalf of your library. Contact OCLC support in your region and find more training materials and documentation at our support portal at help.oclc.org. Thanks for watching.